Hello and welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by my deadly duo partner, Franny. How are you, buddy?
Ah, great, great.
Unbelievable feeling. I think we're all absolutely buzzing with so much to talk about in the comments. Joe Peace made a long live. Corvo made of words to describe Kyogo 100%. Jed, evening all.
Oh,
God
by the
knows
way,
what we're going to talk
before we
about.
get any further, Jed was good in the karaoke last night.
Oh, he's giving the stacks, giving the stacks. Thomas Burns. That wasn't even close to our strongest 11, 100%. Corvo, I want you to play like men today. Exactly what we done yesterday was stand up, be counted, and be men, and it was unbelievable. San Fran Celtic, endless smiles, 100%. You can't wipe it off any of our faces tonight. What a result, and we're going to talk about it. And I mean, Franny, before we get into it, obviously, we'll have to talk about the Super Six. And at the moment, if I have a wee look at the table, Kevin Gallagher is out on top in 38
Ah,
points. Jimmy McIlduff coming in at second. Alistair Jack third. Phil Tomlinson fourth. Niall Thomas fifth. Ewan Cheshire sixth. Anthony Dunn seventh. Bethany Brennan eighth. Mark Robertson ninth. And Franny, you finally get into the
I'm
top
there.
the top 10 there, buddy.
And then I'm sneaking up.
But like we always say, get involved with it. And the league pin, it's meant to be on this banner, but I've had a nightmare and accidentally deleted the banner, and I couldn't be fucked retyping it again. So it'll be up. It'll be up again next week to join it. But it's going well. Everyone's getting involved. But Franny, what will we talk about? I know what we'll talk about. We'll talk about what time did the lineup come out? About 10:45 a.m. The lineup was produced, and I'll just go off the top of my head here: Joe Hart, Alistair Johnson, Lager Bielka, Liam Scales, Greg Taylor, Cal McGregor, Turnbull, O'Reilly, Abada, Kyogo, and Mieta on the left. I put into our chat. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" I'm going to be on these supporters. I have to admit what I said. I was furious at the lineup. I couldn't believe there was no Nat Phillips. He's picked up an injury. We're like, "What's going on?" Liam Scales comes in. Larger Bielka's inexperienced. David Turnbull midfield, so slow. And I was like, no, 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 this is the totally wrong lineup. How did you feel when the lineup was announced?
But you know, Stephen, I was much along the same train of thought as yourself. I thought I was like, why is he playing? He's never done it at Ibrox. Tumble, I thought him and O'Reilly. It's a partnership for me that doesn't really work. Scales, you're going, well, they bring Nat Phillips in, but it turns out it appears that he's maybe carrying an injury. So the guy that's came in to cover the injuries had an injury, and you're like, what chance he actually got? And I was not confident going into the game. Not going to lie about that. I was along the line of many fans not confident going into the game. Seen that lineup and said I would snap your hands off for a draw. Stephen, no Peter in the bush. Me, you, and Ross definitely were not confident going on into that. I wish. God, I know Willie was desperate to be on the right. He actually messaged you yesterday to say, but obviously Sutton's came up because he actually messaged us like, make sure I'm on the podcast tomorrow. And Sutton's came up that he's had to, although he's got to not to be on because I just thought he'd have sat here for the whole hour or whatever it is with a smug look in his face. Because credit where credit's due, he was the only one in the group chat that was, and it wasn't just being it, like he was the only one showing a bit of positivity. And like obviously we had our reasons for why we didn't want certain players playing, and I think they were fair comment why we didn't want your Abadas, Scales and Tumbles and that playing. But while he was like, no, trust me, this is not as bad as you think and all that, and fair play to him. The boy was bang on. The boy was
I
bang
mean,
on.
he
And that
was the
wasn't just
only.
yesterday. The boy, he's been saying it for a week or so. He's been saying
Yeah,
it for
he
a
has.
minute. He's always a glass half full guy.
Yeah,
Which,
and to be fair to him, he called it right. I think we put
aye.
in the chat. The first words he said to me was "fuck off, Stephen." So I mean, I do. Willie was positive. I'm sure there was other supporters that were positive as well.
I
John
mean,
Finnegan, BR showed Brendan Rodgers show. He was an elite manager. Made B look like a total amateur yesterday. Absolutely fantastic performance, 100%. But I do want to kind of go back to midweek before we obviously jump into what happened on Sunday. It seemed like to me a whole lot of optimism and more confidence came about from them getting humped by PSV. Obviously, there was the aftermath of the St Johnstone game. There was booze at Celtic Park. There were some Green Brigade members that stayed behind. But once the midweek game finished for them, the Champions League, and they were out, did you feel more confident going into Sunday? Because I seen a total shift in what supporters were saying and what way they were coming across things. It was more negative up until that point. When it hit midweek, they got humped 5-1. It was like, fuck, we can do this.
I think it was they sort of seen a blueprint of how to play against them, and it was fast-paced football. Something we can do we've done for 2 seasons under Postecoglou. Something we know Brendan Rodgers can do as a manager. If anybody thinks, a lot of folk have been saying Brendan Rodgers plays slow football. Look at his Liverpool team. Look at his. It didn't really play slow football. It's not as fast-paced and gung-ho as Postecoglou's. The football under Postecoglou probably is better, but he plays fast-paced football when it matters. But I think obviously on the back of them getting beat 5-1, they're out of Europe. Then we start to bring some signings in. It's one of the ones, for me anyway, my attitude changed because you're getting the signings and you're getting a wee bit excited going, oh, well, these guys will maybe give the place a lift and things like that. And it's maybe just what we needed, some fresh faces, just something there. Like, I suppose we're all claiming we're all clambering for Palmer to get a start off the back of not seeing the guy ever playing. It was madness. It's madness when you actually think about it. But I think it was just, like you say, getting the bodies in it for me anyway, it gave you that wee bit of hope that there's, like you say, the team hadn't started great to the season. So you're like, maybe these fresh guys in will maybe do a wee bit and stuff. But also I think it's one of the ones that's getting close at the game. You're like, well, there's no point being negative anywhere to it. As much as we weren't confident when the team came out in that stadium, but it's constantly being negative towards them. It's not going to get us anywhere. They're not going to have fans at the stadium anyway. You've got to try and show your support how best you can. And I think it was, for me, and it was just the lead up to the game and stuff. It was, you're getting excited, the butterflies, all that comes with the derby games. I think that's, for me, that's where my mood changed. Just thinking, right, we need to get behind the team until I seen the starting lineup on Sunday. I was like, for fuck's sake.
It's one of them things. It was all reactionary, and we're all going, "Why the hell did this happen?" But again,
if only you could be me like Ross and Willie, but they're a wee bit calculated. But that's
never happening.
That's not us. That's not us.
Mr. Freeland, Bale on a 3-year deal, 13 million on 9 donkeys. Can they afford to sack him? They've lost out the Champions League money already. What was it? John Dal Palmerson for Malmo? They need the money. They need the money. You can see that they need the money. But we'll get into the game. I mean, there's Ryan there, Bilbao. I mean, we'll get into the game a wee bit. Obviously, the game started. We all knew they were going to come out quick. The supporters were singing "Simply the Best," which is quite ironic. I always find it really funny when they sing that song when they're actually simply shit. So the game started really quick. And they were getting on the front foot. The ball was in the back of the net. I think it was within minutes, maybe a couple of 40 seconds. It was quite quick. Obviously, the goal was miles offside, but at that point, they did get through us. Matondo played that ball. The Dessers finished it. What were you thinking then?
Well, obviously, if you watch it, Liam Scales totally misjudges the flight of the ball and loses a header against, I don't know if it's Dessers or I don't know who lost the header against again. I think it was that Dessers. And for there, as I say, I know we get away with it. It's offside. But for there, I'm sitting going, that's why I didn't want Scales in the team, because that's the type of thing I worried that he's just he would mistime things. His judgment would just not be there, and I was like, that's not, as much as the goal was chopped off him, it's just not the start you wanted to go off to. I think you had to try and slow the game down to an extent. Like, they were always going to come out flying. You would expect that. It was one of them. I just thought, that's the perfect start for Rangers. As much as the goal was chopped off, I was like, that's a perfect start for Rangers. Scales, who you're sitting going, do you just want to see yourself into this game? Get nothing silly. His first 1-on-1 is miles away, and you're going, oh my God, this is just the worst start ever. But credit the team, they were brilliant. They weathered the early sort of a storm, and I thought first half, I know we'll get into this team, but I thought first half we absolutely dominated them.
100%. But I think it was important to bring up that, because what you said, I expected them to take the keep going, like the Joe Hart mistake he made at Ibrox last season. They kind of put the wind in their sails. They kept pushing for a goal. I was expecting that kind of reaction, but it was the total opposite. But one of the other flashpoints I do want to come on to before we talk about our individual performances was Lagerbielke. Obviously, two two free, too many touches on the ball. Got caught dilly dallying. I think it was Dessers came in. Now this has proved controversial. We all know what's been said. All the referee experts are out. Dermot Gallagher and Sky Sports. Neil McCann doesn't agree with the rule book. He wants to write his own rules. Everyone wants to get.
Had the rule book out once in the sports scene, but
aye, and also a guy who accepted EBTs willy nilly. But you have to look at this. When I seen it, I have to admit, I turned around to Migranda and it was like he got caught in the ball, and it's a goal. No issue with that. But when you've done the replay and you used VAR correctly, you could see the foul. He got his leg in front without making contact with the ball first. Lagerbielke's movements impacted because he was going to play the ball. Therefore, he fell over. And any part of the pitch is going to be a foul regardless. I mean, there was fouls given during the game softer than that. So that, to me, all day is a foul. But I want to come to you about a couple of things here. First of all, the reaction, because we knew it was coming. Rangers are complaining to the SFA already because they're bemused that the VAR actually went against them. It's madness, isn't it? A place that hasn't conceded the penalty kick.
I know.
But where did you stand on it first of all, and then the aftermath and reaction that you're seeing now?
Well, first of all, I think even off memory watching it, I don't think any of us at Willie's pub thought that it was anything but a legit goal. I think we all feared the worst. We're sitting going, actually. I say whether the early storm, the early storm didn't come. I know, as we said, Rangers got off to that start with the offside goal, but I thought we dictated all that first half, and it was one of the ones you were going dilly dally, because we have seen Lagerbielke go long a lot, but I think Rodgers called it right. But he tried to restrict. Like, obviously, I think we were allowed to play it long if you wanted to, but it was a deliberate tactic. Don't play it long. There's no point playing it long up to Kyogo. It's just got to come straight back. We just wouldn't have got us up the park. So he dilly-dallied on the ball. He got away with one. It was obviously a foul. I think, like I say, at the time we were sitting going, it's just we've let them needlessly into the game and put ourselves under. But when you do see the replay, he doesn't touch the ball, and he stops Lagerbielke kicking the ball at the end of the day. So it's a foul. It's a soft foul. I've agreed to that. I do agree that Lagerbielke, he's got away with one. The fact that he did dilly down the ball, but Rodgers called it as well. Players didn't give him an angle as well. He did say, like Rodgers said, it wasn't good enough, but he did say that players didn't give him an angle. So he's kind of covering the boy a bit as well. So I thought that was good for Rodgers. He didn't go all in on him. But it's a foul, Stephen. Obviously, you'll get Rangers fans will say that we're just saying it because of Celtic persuasion, and that's fine. I would be greeting about it up there, and I'm not going to deny about it. But as a foul, yeah, it's a foul, and the aftermath of it does not surprise me. I mean, I said it in the chat. This is a team that's. I mean, a lot of Celtic fans, including ourselves, I know those pesky laws, pesky laws. A lot of us thought Celtic were going to get beat. I think the media thought Celtic were going to get beat. The narratives were all being written, how Rodgers would have been under massive, massive pressure. But we won. And there was what they are perceiving, it's getting perceived as a dodgy decision went against them. But this is a team that, whether they like to admit it or not, it's an anomaly that they've not had a penalty and domestically since VAR has came in. You can go into without seeing every single game, and there might be legit reasons why they've not, but you've got to it's an anomaly that no team, that you go over it, what's it, a year and a half?
Without conceding a penalty kick.
Without conceding a penalty at home. It's madness. So am I surprised at the reaction, the wind of VAR decisions went against them? No, I'm just surprised it taken them to the day to question it and ask for, like, bringing out a statement. I thought that would have been straight after the game. But Stephen, let them do it. It makes it so much sweeter. I mean, like, I don't know if you've seen sports scenes. Neil McCann actually was like I said, he went.
I didn't see it, no.
He actually goes, I know it's the rules. I didn't need to like the rules. And I'm like, all right, no bother, mate. That's fine.
It's
so by the letter of the law, it's a foul, but it's no because you didn't agree with it. Okay.
Exactly.
Good argument.
Imagine he was in the VAR box. You were never getting that. Like, you 100%
No.
were getting it. And I think it's, as you said, I mean,
What was hilarious as well, sorry, Stephen, just the fact that they're that used to getting a VAR decision going their way. When it went against them, the full stadium started celebrating. Brilliant.
because they thought the referee pointed for the goal, and they're all cheering.
They're that used to getting the VAR decisions going for them.
And then the next minute, the ref's like, what? Free kick. But I think, like, see, to be fair, I'm not going to deny it. We'll be screaming for it, 100%. But at the end of the day, it's in the rule book. And if it happened for us, we'd be expecting the same kind of laws and averages of the game to kick in and the VAR to look at it. What I was laughing about there in my head was maybe Alan Stubbs has done us a favour by putting the heat on the referees before the game's even kicked off. He's assistant Celtic in that front. But yeah, the reaction's not surprising. It's not surprising. And see, to be fair, and look, as much as we all probably didn't like him and he's decisive, Bobby Madden came out. Bobby Madden stood up for a decision and said it was correct. He actually took images and put it up on his social media and described each bit of that incident. And came to the conclusion that Dom Robertson made the correct choice. It's insane that the most defensive referee probably in my lifetime is coming out and doing that. Do you know what I mean? And it just shows you when it's in the rule book, they're still fighting against it. We know this. We've seen it with the EBTs. We've seen it with everything. And then they're going to make a statement, and then it's going to happen again where the referees are probably going to feel obliged to fucking not give decisions against them and feel pressured and all that type of shit. That shouldn't be happening in the professional game. And what another opinion I want off you as well, with the referees getting involved, like the ex-professional Bobby Madden, Dermot Gallagher on Sky Sports and Neil McCann, and does that not just show you as well, like, how divisive decisions going against them really is? Because if that's against an Aberdeen, if that's against us, a Hearts, a Hibs, you're not hearing about it on Ref Watch. You're not hearing about it by Bobby Madden putting out a statement. It gets swept away, but with Rangers, it's creating a big issue.
Well, nobody's talking about the 2 pushes on Kyogo in the box, are they?
Yeah, 100%. No one's talking about that.
Probably no, but nobody's talking about the fact that I keep Jack Butland, then straight after it, Connor Goldson pushes him. The Dermot Gallagher one, I don't think that's a big issue that he's picking up. He's got that regular slot in Sky, so they've got to talk about big moments. I expect referees are going to go after ex-referees and see what they're going to say about it. Neil McCann, we know where his colours lie, so he's always been a big advocate for the rules. And as I say, guys are saying it in the chat, the guy brought out a rule book on Sportsroom one day talking about decisions.
No, did he? Did he?
He had the rule
Neil
book.
McCann done this?
Yes, he had the rule book out one time in Sportsroom talking about a decision. Can't remember what it was, but I think it was for Rangers, and it was why it should have been getting why the decision was correct and things like that. But this is the guy that now doesn't like the rules.
Wow, he brought. I've never heard this before, so that's news to me. He actually brought a physical rule book. The sports thing.
It had the rule book. Aye.
Wow, that's incredible. Even
why the decision was correct at the time.
Even looking at the comments here, which Cantwell should have been sent off for. By the way, he put it Mieta. Watch it again. It's intentional as well. Cantwell was getting involved in a lot of kind of niggles and stuff in the game. Never really got punished.
But that one where O'Reilly just turns him in the box, man, and he goes.
Flying. Oh well, come on, don't you worry. Don't you worry about that. Thomas Burns, he said he had a rule book in his pocket. Wow, Neil McCann, EBT, Neil McCann. Eh? But look. We'll park that issue to the side, because I think we're all agreed on this podcast that it was a foul. Celtic rightly got the decision for them, which it should be when VAR is used correctly. And that's all we ever want. So, you mentioned it. We control the game, lure on after, until half-time. And one of the players I want to talk about, first of all, we've been giving them a bit of stick. I think every other bit of Celtic media, blogs and stuff have been calling them out. Captain Cal, return of the Mac. Mm-hmm. He produced his best performance I've seen probably since the middle of early this year, so January, February time, because the team started to dip after we won the league. I thought he was absolutely incredible. Not only that as well, by the way, the pressure on him. You're guiding that team with the likes of Scales, Larga Bielka, Taylor, who's lost confidence, a lot of young guys in there, and you're the guy who has to stand up and be counted. And it goes back to what Roger said. Play like men. And that's what Callum McGregor done for me. He took the ball at every opportunity. He was linking up the play. He was helping out the defence. He was getting involved with attacks. And what I noticed as well, I don't understand why, Michael Beale must have thought he was invisible because he just thought, nah, I won't put anyone near him. But it's the best player on his day. He's the best player in Scotland in terms of what he can offer in the midfield. They dropped off as Braskin, who's meant to be their version of McGregor, ended up in his own box. He wasn't involved in the whole game, basically. Cantwell was running about doing his hair, trying to get involved with O'Reilly. But first of all, Callum McGregor, Fanny, talk to me. Talk to me about that guy's performance.
It turned in a performance that we know he's capable of, Stephen, but it's the timing of it and stuff. Like we say, he's not had a great start to the season. He has come under some criticism, which is only right. He can't be immune to that. The guy's set very high standards with his performances in the past, so it's only right you criticise him when he's not at the levels. Now, there's obviously mitigating factors, and that could be the new system. I know folks say good players always play good and good teams and under good managers, but we played a very unique way for 2 seasons, and then we're changing that. Not drastically, I would say, but we're changing it. But I totally agree. Callum McGregor, I don't know if he goes off confidence and stuff, but why don't stick somebody on McGregor and just didn't let him get into the game? Because if McGregor first 20 minutes is playing rotten and getting overrun, Rangers would have won that game easy probably, because Celtic, if McGregor's not playing well, Celtic generally did play. It's no coincidence that McGregor was brilliant yesterday and so were we. It's absolutely no coincidence that how well he played. But I do agree that they never got on top of him. They never, like, I know it's far from a manager, but why not sacrifice a player like, I've been raving about this Cifuentes, never came on. Just Lundstrom, put somebody on McGregor, just say, look, I'm not caring what you do in the game. I don't care if he only had 10 touches, just didn't let McGregor get the ball, or when he gets it, just make sure he's passing it back. Just didn't let him do anything with the ball. Just didn't give him a sniff. Kind of, not that we do totally with Maeda, but there's a reason why we all want Maeda to play against Rangers, because it occupies Tavernier. He maybe not do much for it anymore in the game, but you didn't really see Tavernier. And why Rangers didn't? Wow.
I don't even want to read that out loud.
Why Rangers never put a player on Callum McGregor is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me, Stephen. And if you got man of the match yesterday, I don't think you could have complained. But I just thought the guy absolutely controlled it. I have actually got Mickey Beale's track at top one. Signed to Alistair. It's signed to. Signed by his
with tears. But I do agree. I mean, I look at McGregor as well, and obviously without getting into their tactical side of things, what I want to talk about most of all is just seeing Conor McGregor enjoy that football again and be that kind of focal point, that playmaker. I mean, there was a point in the first half where he was taking the ball off Lagerbielke, taking the pressure off him, taking the pressure off Scales, and he was always there and thereabouts linking up the play. And even if they didn't mark him, which they tried to do in the second half, by the way, maybe nullified him a bit, but we were still effective on the counter. Obviously, come on to the second half, but I just thought all round, it was just like watching him back to his best, and maybe, just maybe, this is it clicking for him again.
It's one of the ones. Willie actually put it in the group chat today. Like, Willie's a big advocate of the national team and stuff. But I think it's the first time he said he's not that he's not looking forward to Scotland games, but he's a wee bit annoyed about the international break. And hopefully, I don't think Callum McGregor will be thinking that, because he'll be playing for the national team. So it's probably good. And I think we're playing Cyprus. I'm not too sure who else we're playing, Stephen, I'll be honest, but it's probably 2 games that we should win. At least Cyprus, you should beat them. So he's probably got to play another game, have a good performance. So I think he'll kick on. I think Celtic will kick on for this performance. It probably was. I think we were saying it during the week. I mean, you could label it Rangers as well, saying this derby match was the perfect game they needed after. Aye, it was another like he never once panicked at the ball. Like I can remember me and Ross talking about it at one point. That it was it nabbed it. The ball was never once. There is some pink and kinda green in it. Kinda green. The ball was never felt like a hot tatty for the majority of the game. Like obviously for about 65, 70 minutes, there was the ball got put along a wee bit more, which was kind of expected. But certainly in the first half, McGregor was key at the ball was never once treated like a hot tie. It was like, and that was probably partially the reason why Lagersbell got caught out because it was like not necessarily take your time, but just steady on the ball. Just don't punt it. Just keep the ball, keep passing, and we'll create the spaces. And it obviously one of the best moments was when we done that and McGregor played that ball down the line to Abada where Kyogo should have scored and stuff. But it was, I just don't, I never got Michael Beale's tactics against Cal McGregor at all.
I mean, looking at Michael Beale, by the way, got absolutely took to school by Rodgers. Let's make that clear. Everyone was confident. Everyone was flying, thinking that they were going to win in that. But I mean, I want to talk about his. I want to talk about his midfield partner. And what I liked about our tactical setup was I don't know if anyone noticed it, but O'Reilly was deeper with Calmack at points in that game, and it was helping him like no end because previously against the likes of St Johnson, even in the cup game against Kilmarnock, he was by himself. He was isolated. He wasn't getting turned. He wasn't facing the play up. He wasn't making the killer pass. He was always playing it safe. But what I thought O'Reilly done well, Franny, he dropped into the space with him. So it gave Rangers two problems to have. Who to mark, who to pick up. If O'Reilly took it, he was spinning. He was playing in Abada, who was always one-on-one with Sterling, by the way. And Abada played okay to a certain extent, but he should have took that guy on more. He was right-footed, left back. He should have kept going at him. I thought he had the beating of him, but again, it's what he tends to do in these big games. But I do expect that consistency level to rise in the coming games of the season. But just to focus back on O'Reilly, not only did O'Reilly boss the midfield, in my opinion, with McGregor, he was a leader in that team. There was a wee bit of that footage at the end when Kyogo was doing his interview. He just came up behind him and hugged him. And like he obviously has a major influence within that squad. He's probably a senior right now in terms of that starting lineup and his experience with us at the minute. He'd be a kind of senior guy, but again as well, what about Cantwell trying to go up against him? Didn't match him at all. Cantwell was nobody. Cantwell was nothing during that game, and it was fantastic to see. See his wee tantrums of going doing that to the crowd and all this pish. Does not work.
Yesterday.
Does not work. No, none of it. He was hiding. And O'Reilly and McGregor deserve that credit, not only because they worked in tandem, but again, as I said to you about McGregor, O'Reilly, to me, that was his best performance of the season, even though he scored in the couple of games previously. I just thought his all-round game, like tackling, he was getting his foot in, he was athletic, getting to the box, getting with the link-up play. He was marking players, he was doing it from corner kicks, heading balls away, getting in the box, defending. And I just thought from a midfield point of view, we were all nervous going into it with a lack of pace. He did not show that. He was on top of his game. Like,
I think he's probably been our best player, or at least consistently anyway, that this season. I know we're early doors. But for me, no issue with Liam Scales getting man of the match, but for me, Matt Riley was probably our man of the match yesterday. In my opinion, I thought he was absolutely. I totally agree, Patrick. But as I say, no issue with Liam Scales getting it. The boy was brilliant. For me, it was. I think that we were all. See, me, you, and Ross were saying maybe put a Watt in there, even though there's no chance he's got to play. But we're all asking for somebody to go and help McGregor in there to stop him getting overrun, and I really done that to an extent. And then he played like a number 8, but he was up and down. And to be fair, Todd Cantwell, they can't. And that one where he turns, does a wee drag back and turns in our own box, and Cantwell just goes flying, absolutely flying. You're like, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. But I thought Matt Riley was absolutely brilliant. Showed that wee bit of dig. I think he's kind of. I think he's one that's proper embracing Brendan Rodgers' style of playing, managerial stuff and that. And I think a lot of folk were trying to pick the bones of things that he said about how he came and talked to us and the dressing room and saying it's wee slide digs at Postecoglou, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think he seems a respectable enough player that he's not going to. Like, Matt Riley was one of Postecoglou's best signings, I think, and was pivotal when he came in and played a lot of football. I don't think he's got to be sitting taking pop shots at him. I think it's just this is a managerial side that he prefers how he does it. And so I think he's absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He does come across as a senior sort of threat. I think he's maybe respected within the dressing room. Don't know, possibly. Just he seems. I mean, I think the whole group. To be fair, I think we've said that for a few years now. They do seem a very collective group and stuff. And it was for me, Matt Riley was absolutely brilliant yesterday. It was ridiculously good.
I think even more so, it meant more yesterday because of the circumstances we found ourselves in. And again, it's not an excuse. It's fact. Our centre half department was decimated, and we're going to talk about the centre half. Don't worry about that. But I mean, not only was Todd Cantwell owned by O'Reilly, he was owned by Maeda, and then he was owned by Thiago Home, who came on and bossed him and took the ball off him, and then slid tackle him, and it was fucking fantastic. But the goal. Let's talk about Kyogo. Obviously, I think he missed 3 probably gilt edge opportunities. The Abada cross where he tried to backheel it. Don't understand that.
Nah.
The one where he one-on-one with Butland, I think the blood rushed to his head and he just totally fluffed his lines. And then there was another one where he ran into the box. Abada was wide open and he made the wrong decision. But Kyogo is always alert. He's always playing on the shoulder. The ball breaks last couple of seconds of the half. I think it was O'Reilly heading it back. Suter missed the header, Goldson missed the header. Ball drops. Kyogo pinged it. Volley outside of the boot. Bottom left-hand corner. Jack Button, no chance. I didn't even celebrate because I thought it was offside. Me and my grand and my brother were looking at each other going, is it a goal? Is it not a goal? Is it a goal? Get the replay. And you're like, fucking, it's unbelievable. And his record against them is sensational. I think it's 6 goals in the last 5 Glasgow Derby games. He's the man we call upon when we need it. He showed up. Yes, he missed the chances, but when the chips were down, when we needed that goal to settle the nerves, and right at the half-time whistle, by the way, it deflated the whole place. And even his face, he was like, he was loving it. Because I think as well, I think Rand put in the chat that he actually said in the interview, he only hit it like that because he thought it was offside. So instinct just banged it. Beautiful goal.
Oh no, it wasn't. It shows the level of guy that we've got here because, like you say, the one where, fun enough, we're talking about it earlier, where McGregor plays that pass over to Abada, and Abada plays a great ball across, and Kyogo, for whatever reasons, tried to do the wee back heel and stuff, and you're like, just stick it in, mate. You've been doing that for 2 seasons. That was like
was the ball behind him? I know the commentary. I don't think it was. I don't think it was.
I think he's just tried to be clever. And it's like, just do what you've been doing for 2 seasons. That was like how we scored for 2 years in the trot, was just out wide, cross it, bang. And then obviously the one where I think it was the one where he does take too many touches. I think it was Suter came out and got caught in the ball, and O'Reilly played a great pass into
lovely pass.
He slipped away. I mean, it was great movement. When you watch the movement for Kyogo was absolutely brilliant. But I just think he takes too many touches on it. It was one of the ones that was like, he just never felt like he was never ever set. And then the goal, like you talk about timing, I think it was for me, we dominated that first half, like absolutely controlled it, very deliberate the pace that we were playing at. Like it was nice. Do you
think that? Do you think that, like, and don't mean to cut you up there, but it always goes back to when Rodgers said it. I've said it before. I don't want to bang the drum, but he always used to say, "You rest when you have the ball," and it just felt like Celtic were keeping the ball, passing it, moving it, deliberate, slow, whatever, just to take the sting out of them because they were trying to come and really go for us. But it worked at a treat, I thought, in the first half.
Nah, totally. And like, let's not get away from it. Like, they had 50-odd thousand fans against Celtic. There was not one person in that crowd supporting Celtic yesterday. So it was all about like quieting the crowd, get the crowd against them and quiet. You're not, for me, as much as I said earlier, it was probably a fast-paced football was a good way of beating them. I think Rodgers showed that it was slow the game down, if you like, and it's to just keep the wee passes, draw them out, and then the spaces will open because you'll not. I say you'll not get away with it. Like you noticed that yesterday, if we played 4 or 5, 6 passes in the middle of the park, and sometimes it was round about their players, but if we kept the ball for a good sort of 4, 5, 6 passes, maybe up to 10, you could hear the crowd getting frustrated. And then that's when it was almost like a trigger for their players, like, all right, we need to do something about this. And it was a perfect tactic, and that was it. It was like, we'll keep the ball for wee spells, and they will come out because the crowd will just not allow them to sit in. And I think it was very deliberate, as Rodgers said on the Friday. He knows how to win. He knows how to win these games. But that was better than your Irish accent.
That was not my Irish accent. What are you talking about? That was not any word.
My Rodgers accent was better than your Rodgers accent.
Do it again.
I know how to win.
That's horrendous.
I give you South African there.
Yeah, that was bad.
Kyogo's goal, brilliant. Absolutely.
See Kyogo as well. By the way, do you think we should have had a penalty?
I don't know.
I mean, it was blatant two hands.
Aye, but when you watch it, he's not. I know it should really come out of this, but he's not really stopped him from getting the ball. I feel like the ball's not really anywhere near Kyogo. I feel like, but I don't know. I don't know, but nah, Kyogo just showed again. Like you say, he had 2 great chances, missed them. 2 absolutely. I'm not. Don't worry.
Horrible, Thomas, wasn't it? Wow.
Oh, I know. I've got to get it stinking on the group chat for this, man. I had 2 really good chances, and arguably the hardest chance he stuck away, and he stuck it away, bro. Like, he can't get away for how good that finish was. I know he's came out and said he hit it because he thought he was offside. But if he thought he was offside, the easy thing within the day, it's not he actually hit it the way he done it.
Imagine he thought he was offside and just played it out of the park or something. You'd be like, oh my God.
I know. But he's actually like leaning back, hits it with outside his foot and that. And I think the fact that he's hit it early, that's what's caught Jack Butland off, because Jack Butland's obviously they've cleared it and it's not been a great header for Goldson. It's allowed O'Reilly to capitalise on the header over the top. So it's obviously they're not set. It's not to say if Kyogo taken a couple of touches, he probably would have stuck it away. But the fact that he's hit it early, it's caught Jack Butland out, and the sound when it hit the net. He just knows what he's doing. Like I shared in the group chat earlier, there was a thing I read online that's him now. Like you say, 6 goals in 5 games against him. 2 at Parkhead, 2 at Hampden, 2 at Ibrox, and one in each goal. So he scored at every end of the park in every stadium. It's absolutely a frightening statistic for the guy.
The more like Miss Brown. And it is frightening. I mean, everyone's agreeing here. Plums McNugget, by the way, Maida was phenomenal. I totally agree. I thought his work rate was unbelievable at times. But see Kyogo, Cal McGregor came out after the game and he said, obviously tongue-in-cheek comment, he said, I went up to Kyogo and said, you're the best striker I've ever seen. Now, it's going to be an age-old debate. We're going to talk about this continuously until Kyogo eventually departs the club or retires or whatever. But we've asked it before, but I'm interested in the comments because, I mean, there's records are there for all to see. Is he now the best striker we've had since Larson?
I think so. I've always banged the drum for guys like I loved Dembele. I thought he was really, really good. But Kyogo's now on his 3rd season, still doing it. And that's no slant on Dembele and Edward. I'm not using the time thing necessarily against them. They've obviously been here. They were there. They're now a similar sort of time anyway. But I know Edward, obviously in the COVID season, Edward, he did have his best goals return, but I think tools were down sort of. But he did have his moments against Rangers as well. He I don't know how many goals he scored, but he scored a fair few against them. Dembele, we all know what he done against them and things. And as much I do, there's 3 different type of strikers, but for me, if I'm going into my next big game, I'm picking Kyogo Fitz, because I think for me, like Hooper, I thought was a really good striker as well. I'm not really bringing Craig Bellamy and Robbie Keane into the argument due to the fact that they were just loan signings here for 6 months. But if I've got a game tomorrow, for me, the only 3 that would come close to not saying the ability of Larsson, but in the argument being the best since would be Edouard, Dembele, and Kyogo. If I've got a game tomorrow against Rangers, or I'm picking Kyogo. I
good.
think he's proven us time and time again that he's brilliant.
I think Patrick McLaughlin actually nails it for me. The Champions League level's next. If he conquers that, then there's no real argument you can have. But I do agree.
Folk could argue Dembele because Dembele done it for us in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And Edward done it in the Europa. So there's fair arguments, but for me, it's got to be Kyogo, man.
I'm agreeing with you.
I'm right now in the sort of
the aftermath of the game.
But nah, Kyogo.
I'm agreeing because I think Kyogo to me, like what we've seen on Rodgers, even though sometimes I don't like it, we're questioning it, but his overall game seems to be improving. There's a lot more aspects to it. The link-up play, dropping deep, getting involved with midfield runners coming off him. He's still in the box. He finishes goals and instinctive as well. A volley outside the boot at Ibrox.
We all know his instincts to play in the shoulder, and that's where he got the goal from.
That's where he did get the goal, 100%. And I think as well, like in the comments, people are saying about if he proves himself in Europe. I totally agree, but I just think he. For 4.5 million, like Corvo says there, it was a steal. We probably, for us anyway, like he's won his cup finals and he's won his league titles. He's been involved in cracking teams, and I think under Rodgers, I do genuinely believe his game's going to go to a different level from what we've seen previously under Postecoglou.
It might not hit the goal return that he did last season, but I think overall,
what's he on, free already?
It means every chance, but. I mean, I think he got, was it 36 or something last season? It was quite a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get to the levels season on season, but I will not be, if Kyogo gives me 25 goals, I'll be happy because I think overall he'll have done a lot more.
I think as well that the goal spread on the team's going to be different. So, I mean, O'Reilly's going to chip in, McGregor's probably going to get involved, Maeda's going to get a few, so it takes the pressure away from Kyogo. But again, Callum McGregor saying that, I just thought was absolutely quality. Stephen Ray comes in, evening lads, late to the party, what have I missed? Do I need VAR? No, mate, we're going well. You can skip back to the VAR chat, it was some laugh. But if we're looking at it, we'll have to talk about defensively, right? We go into the second half, we're 1-0 up. I mean, the Sky Sports studio was a good laugh, wasn't it? Chris Boyd and Meltdown and all that. Lenny having a wee smug face and McFadden just there like a bodyguard. But they came out. We knew what was coming. We just knew they were going to come out firing. They were going to come out chasing us, like rushing us down. And that's when they put Kemar Roofe on the McGregor. Kind of took him out of the game a bit. Joe Hart was going longer. We were losing the second balls. But Rangers huffed and puffed, didn't they? They tried. But what I do want to talk about here is Lagerbielke and Scales. I thought, even though sometimes they looked clumsy, sometimes they banged into each other, but when the tackles needed to be made, they made them. They were winning headers very late on in the game. They were clearing the ball. Even Scales was passing the ball neatly to Burnaby, whoever it was, Taylor at left back, creating that angle, obviously being left-footed. I just thought for a centre-half pairing, Franny, that's probably, now you look at it, fifth choice, if you have all your fit centre halves, and that includes Lagerbielke in that. They were absolutely unbelievable together to be free into a game like that. I know they played against St Johnstone, but this is a different level. This is mental. Liam Scales obviously played there for Aberdeen last year and scored, fair enough, but Lagerbielke coming from Sweden. We've seen the Swedish champions dismantle Aberdeen, and they were a small outfit compared to us. I mean, their stadium probably held about 5,000 people. So that's the kind of level he's coming from. And to be thrust into that environment and to defend like that, Rodgers called Liam Scales a warrior. And I thought he lived up that description. And is it eating humble pie on my part? It maybe is. But we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what they expect. We're all going to have doubts when we see a centre-half pairing like that. We expected Nat Phillips, but he came down with an injury bug. And according to Roger, he was never going to be ready, but that's shit. He's come in injured and they didn't realise or something, and that's happened. But fair enough, we'll move on from that. They stuck that out. And I think, as much as Kyogo getting the goal, they won us that game as well.
Oh, 100%. You can't take it away from them. And like you say, they're not going to be a first choice pair moving forward. But as I said to John earlier in the group chat, tonight for me isn't about picking deficiencies in players and stuff.
No.
It's the players have taken enough flack this season so far. They put in a fantastic performance yesterday, and I think they just deserve all the plaudits they're going to get. Like I said, we'll touch on this, but guys like Taylor, Abada, and Tumble, who maybe weren't brilliant, but I think when they had the ball, they'd done great things with it and stuff. Taylor, I thought, passing wasn't great, but he never once had for the game. I can't remember him doing something where I went, "Oh, for fuck's sake, what you mean? What you do?" Like, never once put us under pressure. I thought Tumble held the ball up well. Hardly was on the ball, but when he was, I felt he held it up. And Abada just sprung into it. I do agree. Maybe should have tried to beat that that boy Spencer a wee bit more, but he done his job. And my head was ridiculous. But the two centre halves, I credit where credit's due. I mean, Lagerbielke, I think, taking that Phillips out because he's obviously been his kind of an emergency signing and stuff. So Lagerbielke's came in probably to challenge Navrocki for the partner CCV. So you would expect him to have been in there when you consider who we had available. But I think we all worried about Scales, and Scales might not be. They might play rotten next game, but who cares? Well, I say who cares. Probably fucking slate them then.
I fucking care. Everyone fucking cares if that happens.
I think that performance, start with Lagerbielke. Like if that goal goes against him, that foul doesn't get called back and it goes against him. There's probably a good chance you lost that game. You could, because you've had a good 25 minutes or whatever it was, and then a stupid wee error and it's got their tails up. That could then just give him, and then he's sitting looking at it going, shit, my first big game, and I've had an absolute clanger and cost the team. But he's no. And he's actually then went on to have a really good game. I mean, he tried his best at times to make the game interesting, because even after that, I felt he was still taking a wee bit of time with the ball. But
I have to say though, Franny, he was brave on the ball. Regardless of how long it took him to do it.
It'd have been easy to punt it along every time after that. And then even in the second half, when Rangers were putting us under pressure, which you expected, they were never going to constantly cruise that game as much as we did in the first half. Like even Joe Hart hand skills, like it was rarely was the ball getting punted along. Even for by kicks, we were all sitting going, just punt up the park. But no, it was play it short, but we're sticking to the game plan, keep the get. And I think that was great. It perfect management for Brendan Rodgers. It gave them confidence, and they'll gain a lot for that. Like Ross said it as well, that type of 1-0 win is a lot better than winning 5-0, because you'll learn more for that. You'll learn more in the team. He'll know that he can trust in the guys. Is Scales a superstar? Nah, but yesterday Scales was. It was absolutely brilliant. And I say, first header, he missed it by a country mile. They go up the park and score. Yes, it's offside, but again, he could have shrunk and went, oh shit, and he could have been second guessing himself for there on, but he didn't. He let it go. He's probably said, I've got away with one here. Let's forget it. And the two of them, as I say, absolutely brilliant. Never once looked on like they were always brave on the ball, like you said, Stephen. I looked a wee bit awkward at times, them on the ball. Some of the defending looked desperate, but it had to be. That there was one where I seen Scales just dive in a random diving header, and you're like, what the hell? Oh, got a wee. We've
got a super sub coming in here. We got a super sub.
I had to just join, guys. I had to just join because last time I was on, the Monday after, we won, and I just had to do it for the good luck and the good vibes. That was it.
Good.
Good, man. Are you staying on for a bit?
I'm not, mate. I'm literally bouncing in and out, but I couldn't let it slide without being here on the day of days where...
What a win, boy.
What a great day, huh?
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable.
I'm sure you've covered everything, but I just, the fact
that you've got to say.
Well, we're there 50,000 or 50,011 against us, you know what I mean? And to go in there with arguably a weakened squad, arguably a weakened, centre back. I mean, it's not even always our second choice centre backs. And to go in there and play like we did, and to also have 2 goals go against us that were disallowed and should have been disallowed. I don't know what all the noise is about. But, to keep your heads up and to keep going, and then have that masterclass of, one of our greatest strikers who's leaning back and stretching and puts it in the bottom corner to complete silence. Trust me, Los Angeles was bouncing in my for sure.
Good.
Unbelievable, mate. We played like men and we won the game.
Play like men. But listen, I'm sorry to jump in, but I just knew you wouldn't forgive me because we'd won. But I'm running around like a lunatic. Hell. Talk soon.
Hail, buddy. Great to have you in.
Madness.
As you were, buddy.
Liam Scales, I say Lagerbielke, brilliant. Liam Scales, fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and he's possibly coached Lagerbielke through that game a wee bit and seen that maybe he was wrong, because he's obviously like the senior figure as much as he's making his debut in that fixture as well. I thought the guy was brilliant. It proved. I mean, I think me and you anyway offer him a massive apology. Not that he's actually going to be watching, but if he
does watch. He texts me every day. He watches.
Oh, well, tell him I'm sorry. Did he show him the group chat for yesterday when we seen the team?
He's incognito in that group chat, trust me.
Fair play at the guy. It was the 2 of them. I mean, the full defence was brilliant. Everybody, man, was brilliant. Yes, am I being a bit biased and thinking some players played better than they did? But I think that, as I said earlier, Stephen, the players for me deserve all the plaudits that they get. They've proved a lot of folk wrong, but myself including stuff, and they've taken a lot of heat since the start of the season. Brendan Rodgers taken a lot of heat for the start of the season, and they done the job what they were asked to do for yesterday.
I think as well, Franny, you nailed it, and I want to say this as well. Could we pick deficiencies in the performance? Of course we could.
Yes.
Can we see faults in the performance? Of course we did. Can we see where we can improve in the performance? Yes. But ultimately, this podcast right now is just about celebrating a win that probably looked near on, maybe be impossible to some people's minds. People were wanting to draw, get out of their win point, and would be all happy. But look at us now. Monday, we're celebrating. Ross McCall joining from LA to say hail, hail. It's fantastic. Everyone in the chat is buzzing. And people have mentioned them in the chat. I haven't forgotten. And that's a certain goalkeeper, Joe Hart.
Yes.
I think, to be honest, they've put on every Celtic podcast throughout the Celtic media and sat in Lennoxtown and soaked it all up, being like, they think I'm shite. They think I'm this. Because Joe Hart, to be fair to him, produced a really good performance. Not only key saves in key times of the games, calming the play down, calming the centre halves down, being that common influence at the back. When you're finishing a game like that with Ralston, Lagerbielke, Scales and Burnaby as your back four, you need calm heads back there. Joe Hart was that. And I thought he talked them through the game. I thought he rolled back years, even the years previous to when he was at Celtic, when he was at his peak in terms of his presence, in terms of what he offered. And I just thought all round it was excellent. And he stood up and he was counted. Cal McGregor stood up and counted. The 2 guys who led us the treble last year, the main components of leadership, stood up and done the job, what Rodgers asked them to do. And we couldn't skip by this podcast without mentioning Joe Hart. And we speak about Liam Scales saying sorry. And I'm not saying sorry because it was justified at the time.
Yeah.
But Joe Hart produced it. And against St Johnstone, he produced a key save and keeping us in the game. Imagine saying that against St Johnstone. But it happened. And I just thought at Ibrox he was different class.
First half had nothing to do because Rangers never had one shot on target. Their only shots on target in the second half. He had one. I don't actually think he had a really fantastic save to make, but I thought he was brilliant. I thought you bang on everything you've said there, Stephen. He was really, really good. Like he had the one for Danilo where he came out and he was almost rolling back the years where it like spreaded his cell and stuff. Yep. I thought, to me personally, I think if I'm looking at Rangers, I think my striker should be doing a lot better there. But taking nothing away from Hart came out, spreaded his cell, made the save. Then he had 2 seconds after it again for Danilo where he scuffs the shot, sticks his foot out, saves it. Made 2 good saves at vital moments. Then he had that one with Lammers where Lammers takes it round him. I still think Lammers should go for it. But again, Joe Hart has came out quick and made himself big. Could have taken him down, didn't he? It done what he had to do. I thought Joe Hart was a calming influence. It did look uncomfortable on the ball. Joe Hart has always got to look uncomfortable on the ball. It's just, it says 35. He's not going to be ever great with the ball at his feet. We've just got to have to accept that. But Brendan Rodgers wanted him to play a certain way yesterday, and Joe Hart's a top professional. I'm not getting away from that. And he's happy to play that. He knows he'll know his deficiencies. He'll know that he'll be like, I'm not giving myself my best chance to have my best performance if I'm playing it out with my feet. But he's done it because he's a team player, an absolute team player. And I think you're bang on, Stephen. It's only fair that, like you said, yes, there was deficiencies in that performances. There was deficiencies in certain players. But I'm not interested in that tonight. I'll be honest with you, I'm honestly not interested in that tonight.
No, again, why be negative when we just produced a literal masterclass on how to play a game, both first and second half? I don't know if you were
talking as well, but when we're talking about defence, Alistair Johnson was fucking brilliant.
Incredible, mate. Incredible. The wee guy, Matondo, got by him maybe 2 or 3 times the first 10 minutes. But see, after that, Johnson was on him all the time. And not only that as well, he was winning headers, banging it away, getting involved with the play. And he's really calm, isn't he? He takes the ball, he plays it. He's a proper player. Even when Rodgers said that when he came into the training, he was like, it's good to see him in the flesh. You could tell he was buzzing. He was back. I do hope what Rodgers says is correct in terms of there's no injury. He just had to go off precaution because we need him in the team. We need him in the team. He's unbelievable. But I want to talk about the crowd quickly. Rodgers kind of alluded to it in his post-match interview, the one he does like officially that takes forever. And he said he would like the old allocation back, 7,000-8,000 people and that type of stuff. And let's be fair, Franny, we went there, no crowd, no problem, as people are saying in the chat. We got the win, we got the victory. But I agree with Rodgers. I want the old allocation back. I think it adds a wee bit of spice to it. And Jed Thomas said yesterday in the chat today, we've been on a long time, but from yesterday, he said that the club made the right call in terms of not letting supporters in the stadium in Ibrox because we've seen the fighting at the end among their groups. And again, it would have been toxic for 700 fans to be there. I do understand why people wanted to be there, but they could end all this and be like, right, we'll let the old allocation back in from next season. But it looks like Rangers aren't interested in doing it. They've stopped it. And for me, that's unfortunate. I think it adds to the spectacle. It adds to the drama of the best derby in the world. And they've took that away.
Oh, no, totally. I mean, whatever the media, whatever they'll try and pretend it to be, we all know they were the first ones to stop doing it. They tried to blame it on everything but us constantly winning there. They even said it's all sold into season ticket holders, but yet can give 3,000 away at European games and stuff. So you could even, like, I think it was 8,000 fans we used to get their stadium, or 7,500 fans we got at their stadium. So even if they went and goes, like we've, as a podcast, we've said we want the old allocation back. So it would be, for me, it's just, I would love to get it back, but it's miles away. I don't ever see it happening. Maybe you could try and start with going, like, well, give them the European allocation. It's a start. It's at least a start. I mean, I would still like us to take the 700, but I agree where that 700 is situated, probably isn't a great bit of the stadium. You're kind of open to everything, but in fairness, not that I think I've been at Ibrox twice for a Celtic Rangers game, and that was at the old allocation. Things were getting chucked in. Things will always get chucked. I'm not condoning it. Things will always get chucked.
Well, there was an object thrown at Joe Hart yesterday yet again, but again, that's been pushed away to the side. No one's mentioning them.
There's probably another corner at the stadium as well. Like, you could probably, if you imagine, obviously the way the cameras are set up is as if it's at the tunnel where the tunnel is, so to speak. You could chuck the Celtic fans at that left hand corner next to where like the screens are and stuff. They would obviously have one side of the stadium on them, but then even the Rangers, if Rangers as a team are like, well, we didn't even want to see them on the telly, you wouldn't see them there. Wouldn't see them there run that. So I think the SFA, I think, should be stepping in. They should have stepped in ages ago, but as we've seen, Stephen, we didn't need anybody. They've got to start banning their own fans now because nobody celebrate. We didn't need
Nobody's celebrating. They're fighting. They're doing it.
I would love the old allocation back, but I don't see when or if it could happen.
Nah, I don't see it either. Especially if we're the only club pushing for it, and they're not. You need to meet kind of halfway there. And finally, I'd want to talk about Brendan Rodgers here. We've seen the pictures online, him fist pumping out of his car on the way back to Parkhead with the players. It felt like to me yesterday, Franny, and I look back on last week. He looked a bit dejected and that stuff. That he did. That's fair enough. I think everyone could see that. But what I seen against Rangers was suave, the kind of the ego, the man, the manager back out again in full force. It felt like Brendan from the first time was back, and even when he was driving up at the Parkhead, he was saluting the fans and stuff like that. And what I do want to give a nod to is his tactics during this game. We spoke about it kind of going over it a wee bit, but the first half we were playing the possession, we were tiring them out. We were, as you said, we were drawing them out of spaces, getting in behind them. We could have scored 3 or 4. Second half looked different only because the fact was Rangers pushed more, but I thought we played the perfect counter-attacking game. And if we took more care in the final third with better decision making, I look at O, for example, he maybe could have took that on and scored, but instead he tried to flick it around the corner. It was well intentional, but it didn't kind of come off.
Poorly executed.
Aye. But what I'm saying is, we played both halves perfectly to me. And yes, it felt like we were on to the cosh at times, but never in real danger, if you get me. I felt comfortable. And even when the 7 minutes was added on, it felt like they were run out of steam. And we even kind of took control. And at the time, we were playing the ball. We were getting in behind them. I mean, Yang was causing Yilmaz, is it, their left back, all sorts of danger. And I just thought we controlled the game from start to finish.
I know. I think, like I've said, first half I thought we were absolutely brilliant. Like I said, absolutely controlled the tempo of the game, controlled it, carried out Rodgers' tactics perfectly. I felt in that first half. Second half, you probably, again, not a manager, but I would imagine they'd have said at half time, they'd have said something along the lines of, just give me that again, just give me that 45 minutes again. It's absolutely perfect. But then obviously Rangers are going to come out. You expect that. You can't expect to get away with that kind of the freedom of Ibrox for 90 minutes, really, essentially. Well, Callum McGregor anyway. So obviously their tactics changed that, and I felt that's when Rodgers kind of came into his own a wee bit as well. He realised that, probably seen that naturally our players were kind of tiring because he's putting on a lot of the reserves and stuff. Like we say, we're not using it as excuse. It's facts. We've caught a lot of first team players out. A lot of guys that could maybe be on the bench that are unavailable. So there was players that could have made an impact in that match that didn't. Obviously, you've got Nat Phillips, the boy Bernardo, 2 new signings, not available for the game. Not trying to say they would have been the difference in it. You don't know what they would do, but it was 2 players that we couldn't, 2 new signings that we couldn't pick. And second half, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like the one with Alistair Johnson, I know he said it's fitness. I'm hoping it is just a fitness issue, and if it is a fitness issue, that's, for me, it's not a problem because we've obviously got the 2 week. I'm guessing, I don't know if Canada's got any games, but I'm assuming they will have, so we'll be away with that. But if it was just a fitness issue, the easiest thing for me would have been to keep him on and just go, look, you've been absolutely brilliant. Gears everything here, gears it. But he didn't. It was like, nah, I realise that could cost me. Just a bit of selfishness could cost me here. Ralston, go and do a job for me. And even with Taylor, who I, like we say, felt was struggling at times through the game, and he brought your mate Bernabeu on.
Took him on. Yeah,
took him off yeah. And brought your mate Bernabeu on, who...
Big calls, by the way. Big.
It's big calls. And like I said, Turnbull, I thought, he never done anything amazing in the game, but I felt when he had the ball, he never lost the ball. He always kept the ball and moved it and kept, like I say, never lost the ball. So whenever he received it, it always kept it moving and just kept the flow of the game going. But he realised, obviously, the legs, like Turnbull was never the fastest anyway, but he realised the legs were kind of going and brings on home. And it just gives us that wee bit more pace, just a wee bit more drive. Helps with the recovery and stuff, like to get back in when Rangers are pushing you up and stuff. Helps you maybe get up the park, a wee bit of pace and a bit of energy to get up the park, because we were sitting pretty deep at times, and somebody like that can maybe just get it on and drive for a wee bit, just get you up the park, maybe, and just draw you a fill. And
Franny, home did really well. I thought he was really good when he came on.
I looked, like I say, he was getting us up the park. It might have only been 5-10 yards, but it just gets you out. It gives you a wee breather. And I think Yang done that brilliant as well. He was getting on the ball, and it was a wee bit of energy, because, like you say, Abad had, as much as he maybe wasn't on the ball, I think he'd done a lot of running forwards and backwards, so he was probably tiring as well. So it was just, like you say, it was big calls at the right time. He knew when to take these guys off. He did. They try and get the extra 5-10 minutes at them. It was like, right, they're tiring, getting them off, getting new boys on. And then you say Kyogo was brilliant, but we didn't hear an outball. It clearly wasn't interested in the channels. So bring on O, and it gave us an outball. And it was somebody else. It was just a bit. It was somebody with a bit of pace and a bit of power up the park as well.
Yeah, and that's what we were crying out for, especially when you're hitting long balls against St Johnstone, etc. There's no one to hit. So O coming back from injury was a blessing for me. He was getting involved with headers, and he had a couple of good chances himself. And like you said, home, I thought all his substitutions were excellent. They were made at the right times, right calls. I mean, you're making big calls, by the way, taking off Johnson, Taylor, your two full-backs. You're literally down to bare bones. You're taking off Turnbull, you're bringing on home. And I thought home, I said at the start, he absolutely bossed Cantwell. Cantwell couldn't get a sniff, and home just looked quicker. He looked smarter, more intelligent on the ball.
I think that was a big call for Brendan, because Cantwell started taking a bit of an influence on the game and was getting in it. And he probably just was like, no, I need legs in there. I need somebody and just take on. Pretty much what we'd said maybe he should have done with McGregor, just going somebody sitting him. And I think he maybe just said that to home, just going, do what you do, but didn't let him get on the ball. Didn't let him get on the ball, because he's getting into the game now, and that's not what we want.
Yeah. I think as well, I think it was a Brendan Rodgers masterclass. I really do. I felt like watching us back in the day against them, where they thought they were having the upper hand, and we were like, no, you're not. We're bossing this game. We're taking it away from you. And as I said the other, we could have scored maybe 3 or 4 clear-cut opportunities if we took them, and we could have won that game more comfortably. So, again, it could have been a bigger scoreline, but I think what you said is right, and Ross said it as well. You learn more about your team in a win like this than you would if you're humping a team. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, as I said, we finished the game of Ralston, Larkinville, Scales, Burnaby. We're not going to finish like that again against them. No. You're looking at Naraki, you're looking at Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales, Larkinville, Nat Phillips, Taylor. They're all fit. And then you look at the midfield, Tate's to come back. What a player we'll have to bring back after the international break. We're only going to get stronger. And a lot of people in the chat have said this. Rangers put out their best team.
Yes.
Their best team that they had to offer. Their best players, £7 million players. Couldn't get on the pitch doing nothing, where we were sitting back taking up the pressure, and we know in our heads we've all these guys to come back. And that, for me, as I said, this could be the opportunity for us. Although it's an international break, but seeing we come back, we hit the ground running. We could take things away from them, essentially.
No, totally. And you just need to look at it. So for 2 weeks, all Michael Beale will be getting is your 4 points behind. 4 games in, you're 4 points behind. You had a big chance to beat Celtic. They had a lot of key players out. A makeshift two centre halves that are making their debut in this fixture. We had a full quota to pick for, and you couldn't get the job done. He's got to hear that for 2 weeks on his plate, whereas Rodgers was getting stick for drawing 1 game at Parkhead. Yes, he went out the cup with a really poor performance.
But you can only call it as you see it, so it's fair to have the opinion. You can
call it as you see it. The transfer window, folk will argue it's not been great. That's totally their opinion. They're right to have that until guys are coming back. Until we actually see these guys, I'll kind of reserve judgment. As much as I expected a bit more in the transfer market, I'm I'm not going to sit here and say it's terrible when I don't know anything about half the majority of the players we're signing and how good they're going to be. But we Celtic and Rodgers have taken a bit of stick, and they've put in the perfect performance to then go away for 2 weeks and go, look, we haven't been great this season. We've been getting told we've not been great. We've just turned in a performance at Ibrox and we're 4 points clear. It's, the whole narrative's just totally different, and that's where Rodgers can go with it. As I say, we know Rodgers is a good manager. We knew it would maybe be one of the ones we just need to play through it, and he will. I think we all believed he would get it right. Eventually, this might just help speed it up. That process that players will then get on board and go, look, this is what I can do with you. And for me, that result had a massive bearing on the next sort of for 2 weeks. And Michael Beale is, as I say, Michael Beale's sitting with 4 points behind, team booed off the park and all that. He's got all the crap the Rangers will be taking on social media. We had the chance of that being us, but Brendan Rodgers and the team were having none of it. And they've showed us we're top dogs.
Exactly. And what did Brendan Rodgers say? I know how to win. This team's going to know how to win. I'm going to show them how to win. And we'll win. And it also led to the fact as well, I mean, just to touch upon it quickly, I know we're an hour and 10 minutes in and you've got an early start tomorrow. But you look at Chris Bhoys' meltdown after the game was absolutely sublime. James McFadden letting slip the Celtic's going to win the league. Neil Lennon having a laugh and just smirking. Chris Sutton is the best bit of business Sky Sports have done in years. He owns Chris Boyd every time he speaks to him. It's incredible. But like you said, and just quickly, touching on Michael Beale, who was lauded a genius, lauded the second coming. The only place he's coming second is to Celtic. Let's be fair here, do you know what I mean? But touch the wood, obviously. But looking at it, Franny, I think Michael Beale deserves a new 5-year contract. What do you think?
Aye. Give him it.
100%. Have you enjoyed?
By the way, just Chris Sutton, just when Kenny Miller was talking about the film, he just went clutching. I was like, it's brilliant, just one word. But see, as much as I hate Chris Boyd, fair play, he called a lot out of it.
He did, he called it, but that's the first time he's ever done that.
Aye.
The first time usually it's an excuse, or usually the pitch isn't clean or whatever. It's always an excuse
called
for him.
Called a lot out.
But a lot in that.
Sutton will probably call
yes,
it.
exactly, because Sutton will just be like, you're talking shite. What are you doing about?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? But Anthony Dunn tuning in from my apartment balcony in Mallorca. Boys haven't sobered up since yesterday. Good man, hope you're having a good time. Thomas Burns, Sutton is too intelligent for Boyd, 100%. Brown Warrior, he shoots his bolt every time he pulls that string under his chin in his most speaks. Wow. But again, that brings us to the end of the podcast. As you said, we're 4 points clear of our biggest rivals in the league, so to speak. We're going to end an international break. Yawn. We all know it's yawn. Me and Franny aren't the biggest fans of it. But we'll be back again Friday anyway, talking about all things Celtic and probably talking about this game again because we're all buzzing off it. Have you enjoyed this podcast, Franny?
And the famous words of Ralston. Love it. I love that.
Love it. Oh, that was brilliant, by the way. And everyone watching along, thanks for sticking with us. 86 strong at the minute. What I would say to you is like and subscribe and share all that stuff. We're trying to grow as well as a podcast. We appreciate everyone's support. We'll be back again Friday, where we're still 4 points clear of our rivals, and we're still happy, and we're going to have a good week. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.